Welcome to the Leading Hope Podcast with Kevin Jack. Your influence will lead people somewhere, lead them towards hope. Everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.
Welcome to Leading Hope with Kevin Jack. I'm your host, VJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day to become a better leader. We will release a new episode every Wednesday, so we'd love for you to subscribe, share on social media, and bring others along with us on this journey of becoming a better leader. Visit leadinghope.online to get updates and find out more about the Leading Hope community. Today we start part 2 of our new series, calling it Post-Pandemic. This is episode 27. The organization of the future, and I am intrigued. I cannot wait to see what this is, man. Let's go, Kevin.
Episode 27.
Yeah, buddy.
So, second part in our series, Post-Pandemic, in which we're taking some of the lessons that we've learned, even though we, at the time of the recording of this, are not post-pandemic. We're in the middle of the pandemic still, of saying, hey, this is still what we're learning about leadership from at least the start of this crisis. So the title again for today is The Organization of the Future. So just some initial thoughts to get us going, and then I want us to have 2 key takeaways today that I think are just really paramount in this time, is to say, man, the organization of the future looks different. It does. And crises change things. The pandemic changes things. It makes the world different. And so if you go back and you go, man, so many people say, I can't wait till we get back to business as usual. I can't wait till we get back to normal. I can't wait till we get back to the way it was. It's not going to be the same, okay? It's not going to be the same. The future world is different than the present world. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it could be a bad thing for you. I want it to be a good thing for you. I want to make sure that you're acting and behaving in a way and thinking in a way in which that would be a good thing for you. And so we're not simply talking today about how to be an organization of the future. We're talking about how to be an organization in the future. If you're not positioned to succeed in the future, you won't be in the future, okay? We wrongly assume existence. And so, in order to be an organization in the future, you need to be an organization of the future that behaves differently. And so I just want to talk about 2 very clear things that come out of this that you need to build into whatever it is that you lead, whatever group that you lead. And what we've seen is organizations of the future exhibit 2 characteristics. 1, they are essential, and 2, they are agile. They are essential and they are agile. Essential meaning their purpose is clear. Their purpose is compelling. And so we saw the government early on go shelter in place, close different things down, except for essential businesses only, except for essential personnel only. Now, I'm not saying that if your business got shut down that it's not essential, okay? That's not what I'm saying. But this is what was fascinating to me, is we saw all these different groups claim that they were essential. And we saw other groups just happily shut down. Like, I have a number of realtor friends. And this is what I watched, is I watched like the government go, essential businesses only. And I watched my realtor friends like just be outraged that they weren't considered essential. That's not my comment here or there, right, whether they're essential, but outraged and declaring that they absolutely were essential. And you know what happened? Is they ended up being declared essential.
Yeah.
And they believed what they did was absolutely invaluable to people's progress, to their lives, and to the economy. And so they got declared that absolutely, with certain protocols, they could stay in business.
Yeah.
And I loved that. We also see that they need to be agile. They need to be able, organizations in the future need to be able to shift in a crisis and still fulfill their purpose. So we saw this in restaurants. so clearly in which dine-in restaurants got shut down. And we saw so many restaurants, not fast food restaurants, just shut their doors and be done. And we saw so many other restaurants pivot in their delivery. And some of them came up with like boxed meals. Some of them came up with these other special pickup orders, family deals, stuff like that. Like restaurants that aren't curbside to go restaurants. We saw so many restaurants pivot in how they were delivering their goods and services. They understood that they were in the food business, not the eating in business.
Yeah.
In the food business, we'll always be in. Like people will always need food. The eating in business, not so much. In organizations of the future, they're essential and they're agile.
Man, I want to stay on the topic of restaurants because, man, just yesterday, Melanie and I went and picked up some food from one of the local local eat-in restaurants. This is now changed into a curbside pickup, right? But we passed so many restaurants that had nothing available. And the thing is, both, a little known fact, both my wife and I both were servers in restaurants in college. Mm-hmm. And I actually managed a few restaurants in college as a way to pay for college and all that good stuff. But I'm thinking of, man, some of those servers right now, like as we speak right now, can't buy groceries. Yep. They can't, let alone, we're not talking about rent. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The whatever the tax break, or not tax break, but the stimulus, that's not going to cover their rent for a couple months, but they're not going to pay, for anything. They're not going to have that ability. And I'm thinking, man, if I'm one of those restaurants that's not even trying to do curbside, wouldn't I try to do anything? Anything. I would almost, even if because you open up your business. I know you got to keep the lights on and there's margins and all that food costs. I get all that stuff. But man, some of these kids in college, they, just trying to come up with something, because they could literally, they all have cars because they got to work. Like they could drive this and create their own. And I'm not trying to solve something on the fly as we do a podcast, but man, having the agility that you're talking about to just figure out something so that everyone can thrive, or at least maybe not thrive, but maybe move to a situation out of where they're currently at. Man, I just see it and I'm like, man, just create, invent, make yourself available.
It's the ability to differentiate between like, hey, this is what I'm delivering. This is the product that I'm delivering, and this is my method of delivery.
Yeah.
And to understand that the thing that matters most is that you deliver the product, not the method and means within which you deliver it. And say, you need to be agile on that.
Yeah.
So that you can still stay in the same business that you're in.
Yeah, and the church is not too different, right?
Absolutely.
Church, we talked about this the other day, is our mission won't change. Our
Correct.
mission won't change. The method in which we try to achieve the mission has to.
And has dramatically over the last month.
Right, and will continue. And you just said it a little bit ago, everyone wants to get back to normal. We're not going back to what we believe is normal. We're going to have a new normal, whatever that means, but it's not going to be what we thought it was. And so the only choice that you really can make that will make you have joy in your life is to adapt and be agile.
So here's some ideas in terms of what you need to do. If the organization of the future is essential and agile, here's some just kind of like steps you need to think through in terms of what that looks like. So first, on the essential side, you need to build purpose into everything that you do. You need to make it matter, at least in the way that you say it. And there's this kind of underlying question behind there that goes, do you believe what you do truly matters? Do you believe that what you do, not the way that you do it, okay, but that what you do, the business that you're in, is so incredibly important? When if someone came in and tried to shut you down because you're not essential, how quickly would you have a response for why you are essential? And we see that, man, in this day and age, purpose is what people are attracted to. People are attracted to the why. And so I say this in terms of, man, the organization of the future. Part of this is also, it's just good business. Like, it's just good thinking. It's just good leadership, that you're building purpose into everything you do. You know why what you do matters. You know why the product that you're delivering or the business that you're in or the cause that you're a part of, why it is so significant. And then the second piece, go ahead, Veej.
No, go ahead. I'll let you finish that point.
The second piece then is for Agile. What do you need to do to stay agile? And there's a couple different things here that are just like, man, top of the line, the matter. For one, to be agile, you need cash. Like, I know that may sound crass, but if you're going to be agile, you need cash. Cash allows you to pivot. If all of your resources are tied up in other pieces and things that you can't quickly get to, cash allows you to make decisions quickly. Second piece of being agile, you need to have direct lines of communication to the different groups that you're communicating to. And so in every group, man, you're gonna have leadership, you're gonna have people who are bought in, you're gonna have people who are insiders, and you're gonna have outsiders. How do you communicate to each group? And I got, oh my goodness, day one of the coronavirus, I got an email apparently from every company that I have ever bought something from in the history of my life, emailed me to let me know how they're responding to the coronavirus. It was like, thank you, Zenny. Thank you, this group. Thank you, Chick-fil-A. Thank you, all these. I'm like, great. Good to know how you guys are responding to the coronavirus. But what they did deliberately is they already have a means of communication built in. That way, when there's a crisis, they could communicate to people how they were still fulfilling their purpose.
Yeah.
You can't build that in after the crisis. You have to know who are the groups that I might need to communicate to. And what is my channel of communication to them that helps you stay agile? And then a third point, and this is so obvious within this, but you need to be digital. You have to be digital. And you may just be digital, and that's good. Like if you're just digital, that's fine. But if you're human, you have to figure out a way that the human element to what you do and the digital element to what you do, how they should reinforce each other. And when I say human and digital, I don't mean that digital is non-human. I just mean it doesn't have physical personal presence there in that moment. But you've got to figure out ways that they can reinforce each other. How you're so many organizations for so long, it was social media feed that means nothing, or they created an app because every other restaurant's creating an app. So we should have an app too, and no one can remember their login or their password or what any of the rewards actually get there for. And I go, no. During this time, what we're seeing is, man, there's going to be times that people are just digital. And obviously, more and more of our world is increasingly digital. And so if you're going to be agile, you need to have digital that works in tandem with the human personal elements. And those are some just initial pieces. Man, build purpose into everything you do. Know why it matters. Have cash. Have direct lines of communication. And have ways in which human and digital can reinforce each other.
Wow. I've got a ton to try to ask you here and break down. So
let's fly through it.
I hope you are ready. Great point on the digital, because that's the last thing you mentioned about the app. Just for anyone listening that is considering building an app, because we certainly have at our church in other areas. Just so everyone knows, if you're going to build an app, make sure that you have a ton of money to promote said app, because here's the fact. If you have apps on your phone, which most of us have more than 20, only 4 to 5 of those are ever used ever.
Yep.
So if you are going to spend cash on an app for your company, you better triple that budget for promoting it than it costs to build it. Because if you don't promote it, no one's going.
That's a good word right there.
They might download it, but they're not going to use it unless you promote it. So that's one word on being digital and being smart digital. If you're going the app route,
and you need a better reason to have an app than, well, it's cool.
Yeah, or or my competitor has one.
Yeah, well, they have an app.
Yeah, so and we can talk more about that some other time, but that's something to know. The next question that I know people, whether they're driving right now or listening at home, whatever they're doing, is they're asking this question, and they want to know right now is, where do they get the cash?
Where did they get the cash? Yep.
I'm joking, obviously, but that's just funny. I mean, when you said that, it's like, you're so right. But they're like, well, where do I get the cash, Kevin?
Yeah. Well,
but it's a joke.
Let's talk on the front end.
Yeah.
within that and just say, man, margin, financial margin, time margin is not a luxury, it's a discipline.
Oh,
like you
great.
have to have that as a discipline on the front end.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the discipline, you won't have margin.
That's exactly right. That's good. I was joking, but see, you made something out of nothing. I love it. So here's a real question that I want you said something very interesting, and I think you're absolutely dead on. You said people are attracted to the why. And you said purpose is compelling, or it needs to be compelling. So here's the question. Talk more about how a leader can make the purpose compelling.
So this is where I just acknowledge on the front end, I may be poorly equipped to talk about this. Like
Okay.
I really might be, because I'm the pastor of a church. And like inherently, I think what I do matters.
Yeah.
Like I think what I do not just matters a little. I think what I do has eternal implications. That like I literally believe that because of the actions that I take changes if some people go to heaven and some people go to hell. And if you can't find purpose in that, oh my goodness, like I don't even know what you're doing if you can't find purpose in that. But to go, man, but I guess the acknowledgement within there is to say some people, they can do things that matter without knowing why they matter. And that's a step that isn't obviously taken for some. Okay, so you can do something that matters without knowing why it matters, and you won't benefit from the clarity of purpose if you have not clearly defined why this matters. And so, man, a resource, Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, is just fantastic. And it's really simple. It says, hey, before you get to what, before you get to how, start with why. Figure out why you're doing this. Figure out why it matters. And what we saw through the crisis is we saw organizations, we saw people in their businesses that were clear on their purpose go, we're essential. The world can't live without this. And so they were able to say their purpose right on the front end because they already knew what it was.
That's fantastic. The last thing I want to ask you, we'll just get back into the digital stuff. As you said, you can't build in digital communication at the time in which you most absolutely require it. What would be some of the things that you would say that maybe an organization, if they're not, and let's face it, most maybe the people that we're talking to probably have something already in place. But what are some of the things that you put in, rhythms or strategies that you employ that will help people set up a digital future that will make sure that they are at least ready to hit the ground running when something happens and they need it?
Let's just switch that question, and you should answer that because you're more equipped to answer that than I am. So go for it.
I didn't want to answer my own question.
But it's a great question, and you are far more of an expert on that than I will ever be.
The first thing you got to do is make sure, for me, make sure that you have, if you have a website, that you clearly have notated on the website landing page that this is how you're addressing said situation, because that's where most people, especially if they don't know you generally have the two signs or two places that people find you. They either know you and know where to get the information, or have already subscribed to said information. So you already have that. Obviously, there's a gazillion different ways to send people information. They've subscribed to it. But for the people that don't know you, that are looking for you and try to garner that, you have to have something on your website that's clearly stated, that says, hey, this is how we're addressing whatever we're trying to address, whether it's a tornado in Memorial Day of last year in our hometown, or if it's a COVID global pandemic. What are you doing as an organization to address that? That's got to be front and center for someone to see. And then you want to collect data, which we talked about in our last episode, from those people who you both have relationships with and those that you don't, that you want to have relationships with. And you got to find a way to do that. Obviously, the easiest way is to collect that from your website again, or at least have social media deposits daily or weekly that's going to say, hey, this is how you can find us. This is where you can go. And then obviously, once you collect that data, then you can start marketing to them specifically wherever they are, to the way they receive information. So those are some of those are easy things to do. It's all, obviously a website isn't free, but there's a lot of free programs out there. And maybe we can help them out with that this week in social media when we post this episode. But there's places that you can do. And that's where I would start.
So one of the most important points within what you just said is, especially as it comes to digital communication, make sure you're answering clearly the questions that people are asking. And so I'll give a example. I took the Sunday after Christmas last year off because I wanted to go visit some different churches. One of the churches that I planned on visiting, I visited their website, checked out some other stuff, drove up to go to their services, and they canceled their services the Sunday after Christmas. I was like, I drove a couple hours to get up here. Nothing was here. And I found it, like, people said, so I contacted a couple people who I knew who went to that church, and they said, oh, they announced it in services last week. And then I got on their website, and it was buried on one of the back pages to go, church service is one of the most important things that a church does. If you're canceling, it better be on the front page.
Exactly
I shouldn't
right.
have to go searching for it.
That's exactly right.
Answer the question that people are asking.
That's a great point. So, hey, listen, we're going to wrap up episode 27, the organization of the future. This has been fun. What is something you want someone to take away from this episode today?
If you are going to be an organization in the future, you have to be an organization of the future. The organizations of the future are essential and they're agile. They know their purpose and they're able to pivot their delivery while still staying in the same business. And if you want to be in the future, you need to know how to do the same.
Excellent topic. Love being here today. Man, don't forget to rate and review and subscribe. We love hearing your stories of how the podcast is working in your life, in your business, even in your families. If you have a story, visit leadinghope.online. You can go to the website and submit that there. We love hearing from you. Check out the social media now. We've got it rolling pretty good on Leading Hope on Facebook, on Instagram. You can submit your stories there as well. But remember, for everyone listening, you have 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.